The media and Department of Justice are hiding the stories that connect Jeffrey Epstein to his forced sex trafficking operations in Washington, D.C. because they were run by Maryland State Police Chief Ed Norris, the FBI, and CIA.
I was trafficked to Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor by Deborah Palfrey, the D.C. madam.
This is Police Chief Ed Norris.
Came to arrest in the U.S. I had the plans for 9/11.
I gotta rewind a little bit there. You said you had the plans for 9/11.
The reason the truth isn't known about Jeffrey Epstein's ring is because it is run and covered up to this day by military intelligence and police. Everything the public has seen about Jeffrey Epstein's ring are lies. I am the victim, not a victim who spoke out. The victim who spoke out, who is being covered up.
I was trafficked to Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor by Deborah Palfrey, D.C. madam. I called the police. I was moved from Washington, D.C. by Ed Norris, who was the superintendent of the Maryland State Police.
I have been arrested under false charges every election year since I spoke out because I was trafficked to Joe Biden in 2003.
Joe Biden took me on a commercial flight when he was a senator to Manzanillo, Mexico.
Wayne Madsen is the only journalist who reported on some of the facts regarding Jeffrey Epstein's ring. However, he refuses to answer my questions about why he did not report the direct connection of Jeffrey Epstein and the DC madam. It's important to note that Palfrey is the first cover-up of Jeffrey Epstein's ring conducted by the perpetrators themselves.
Wayne Madsen report has learned the late DC madam Deborah Palfrey, operating Pamela Martin and Associates escort agency, had a relationship with the CIA dating back from the time she was released from prison in 1993. Palfrey was arrested for running an escort service in San Diego, California. She attempted to flee to Canada and was sentenced to 18 months in prison. Palfrey cut a deal for early release from jail with the CIA, Kyle Dusty Pagoo, a CIA logistics officer who spent a number of years in Germany and Austria. Among Pagoo's logistics duties was running a CIA escort ring internationally and domestically that had snared politicians and businessmen for purposes of blatant blackmail. A few weeks before Palfrey was indicted, her friend and boss Pagoo was indicted February 13th, 2007 for fraud as well as bribery.
Because me and her were friends. And also,
you and Deborah Palfrey?
Yes, we were friends. And she was trying to get out. She'd already been hit with a tax evasion charge before and not gotten into federal prison time.
Both cover-ups of Jeffrey Epstein's ring were caused by actual murders that have been covered up by the media and Department of Justice. The first was in 2003 due to Jonathan Luna's murder. The reason I believe Jonathan Luna's murder occurred as opposed to the fake deaths of Jeffrey Epstein and Deborah Palfrey is because one of their associates confessed to the crime to me at the time. The second cover-up was in 2019 due to the murder of my daughter, Aisha, who was an underage victim of Jeffrey Epstein's. It is a well-known fact that the media and police are orchestrating these crimes and the cover-up. Wayne Madsen explains.
May 14th, 2007 updated federal authorities leaned toward a suicide, but local investigators treated the death as a homicide. Luna's death on December 4th, 2003 was followed a few days later, on December 10th, 2003, by the indictment of Ed Norris, Baltimore Police Commissioner, and later Maryland State Police Superintendent under Governor Bob Berlick, for using his Baltimore Police Executive Protective Unit, EPU, to ferry prostitutes to various locations. Wayne Madsen report, May 23rd, 2007. The corporate media still does not get it about the so-called Washington madam case beyond just another titillating DC sex scandal. This affair involves the U.S., attorney firings, massive bribery involving military and homeland security contracts, and potential blackmail of high government officials. Wayne Madsen can report that Disney and ABC executives spiked the Washington madam story at the very last minute before new names were to be revealed on ABC News 2020. Sources Wayne Madsen spoke to revealed that ABC not only spiked the story, but created false stories in order to downplay its importance. ABC News spiking of one of the most important public interest stories since Watergate should put into question renewal of FCC broadcasting licenses for ABC television and radio stations across the country. The Washington madam case also involves criminal conspiracy and malfeasance within the Justice Department, Internal Revenue Service, and Postal Inspection Service. Palfrey's case was not opened until June 2004 after she had been in business for over a decade without any pressure from the government. After Baltimore Police Commissioner and later Maryland State Police Superintendent Ed Norris was charged in May 2004 with 3 counts by U.S. Attorney Thomas DiBiagio, the IRS opened a file on Palfrey the following month. It is clear that with Norris, a 20-year veteran of the New York Police Department, facing up to 30 years in prison, he entered into a plea bargain with DiBiagio in return for his cooperation, which included Norris naming Pamela Martin as one of the recipients of Baltimore Police supplemental accounts money. He got 6 months in prison and 6 months home detention. A GOP prostitution scandal that extends from Washington, D.C. and the Northern Virginia suburbs, through Annapolis and Baltimore, to New York City. There are interesting links between former Baltimore Police Commissioner Ed Norris and Assistant U.S. Attorney for Maryland Jonathan Luna, who died under suspicious circumstances on December 4th, 2003, after being stabbed 36 times.
Authorities began searching for Jonathan Luna, an Assistant U.S. Attorney, after he failed to show up this morning. Was found dead today in Pennsylvania.
Jonathan Luna to the Bethesda Marriott on Pook's Hill. where Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor drugged and raped me.
I am the only Epstein victim subjected to false arrest and an unfounded declaration of insanity, while I report verified facts and pursue credible lawsuits. All charges were dropped under the guise of insanity after I was held in solitary confinement from 2020 to 2021 during the election of Joe Biden.
I've posted this woman's story before, but I'm feeling compelled to do it again altogether. And I need your guys' help because I don't know how to help this woman. So I came across a woman named Jessica Lee Collins on Twitter. Back in November of 2019, she started tweeting about how she was trafficked by Epstein to politicians like Joe Biden. Very shortly thereafter, she got charged on a first-time assault and battery and was institutionalized. So she tweeted the video of this quote-unquote assault, which looks like bullcrap, but it couldn't really be, I don't know for sure if it, but she swears up and down this is retaliation for what she's saying against Epstein and politicians. This is what she posted on her Twitter most recently. Currently, she's still being institutionalized. And I'm looking through the court dockets of Virginia Beach, and I don't understand based off of this record how someone can be forced into a mental institution. How do we help this woman?
The current false charges for the 2024 election year of Joe Biden shows the same conflict of interest ignored in 2020 when Junius Spencer Morgan, a direct blood relative of J.P. Morgan, the bank that laundered money for Jeffrey Epstein, knowingly prosecuted false charges and held the final appeal trial without my presence, where Junius Spencer Morgan and an attorney hired by my CIA handler, Joseph Alouetta, fabricated an unsubstantiated false claim of insanity to discredit the provable and factual truth that I am the actual victim of Jeffrey Epstein's ring, who is being covered up by the media and Department of Justice's fraud. The trial of the false charges in 2020 were held behind closed doors after the COVID emergency was declared the day after this trial was scheduled. My innocence was proven in the 8-hour trial. However, I was still arrested. Police confiscated my recording device and deleted 7 hours of the trial from my records.
This is the lawsuit that I filed against the District Attorney J. Spencer Morgan, who held a hearing without me to find me unrestorably incompetent against the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution, as well as their Virginia Code that states that I have a right to notice of the hearing and a right to participate in the hearing and present evidence in my favor, which I was not informed of and not present for. But here is the order that they signed that shows that they are attesting that I was present in the court throughout the proceeding. I was not present. I was not notified of this hearing. They held it without me and prevented me from presenting evidence that would show that none of my claims are insane, as they would like people to believe. This is the letter that they already had in the records from my CIA handler, Joseph Alouetta, who attests to the fact that I was trafficked by the DC Madam. He writes the word work because he's involved, and this is a part of Jeffrey Epstein's ring. Jeffrey Epstein is the first person I was trafficked to. I got answers back, and none of them have denied that what I said is true. I was not present in the court for the hearing. They have stated in their answers that they are immune from prosecution under judicial immunity that protects them from any civil liability, even if they act maliciously or corruptly.
Due to this government's illegitimate actions, I have been forced to flee for my safety. The current false charges for the 2024 elections share the same conflict of interest between direct associates of Epstein's ring. Edward Norris is the man who showed up to my apartment in Washington, D.C. behind Catholic University on Taylor Street when I called the police on Terrell Gravely after he abducted me for Deborah Palfrey. Edward Norris's former employee and associate, Joseph Gamble, has knowingly pressed false charges against me after I was assaulted and showing all signs of a serious head injury. Officers at the scene ignored my head injury and their protocol to continue with their false arrests.
It looks like she freaking something fell and hit her head or something. Do you see her forehead? It's like still knotted.
Andrew de Blasio was hired to defend me, but ignored the head injury. When I fired him and informed him of my intent to sue, he continued to represent me in a breach of contract.
The extortion process could not work if people were to show up remotely.
And attempted to aid the state in a second false declaration of insanity. I was declared competent by the state's examiner in her interview.
Well, it's your belief, though. Do you believe I have answered them rationally?
I think you have.
Prior, I filed a private evaluation by a doctor who declared me fully competent. However, the courts refused to accept his finding, although he files these evaluations with the courts on a regular basis. Edward Norris is fully aware that I have named him as an associate of Jeffrey Epstein's. His response was to malign my character by false accusations of insanity. I believe Edward Norris and this ring have set me up to be murdered in jail, evidenced by the 2 false arrests after I was assaulted.
The people that were at Food Lion that assaulted you are friends with him.
Coinciding with upcoming election years. Following this pattern, there is a significant risk they might orchestrate my murder in jail, leveraging false accusations of violence and insanity to misrepresent any incident, as has been their tactic. This would also give them the chance to erase all evidence of mine and Aisha's experiences from the internet and my personal belongings. These actions are a part of a larger orchestrated conspiracy that has rapidly unfolded around me. The media's coverage is full of holes and prompts further questions, whereas the proof I presented clearly shows why and how my daughter and I are the victims of a concerted effort to conceal the truth.